Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this morning's episode of Trending, brought to you in association with Iconic Coffee. Head over to shop.iconic.com and use the code TRENDING and you get 10% off. Normally, I've got a trending mug, but someone's half-inched it, so I've got to make do with that one this morning. Don't panic, right? I am going to come to some negative stories, but I'm going to start with a positive one. It's nearly the weekend. Do you know what I mean? I'm hoping the sun's going to be shining. We're going to get blowtorched again, blowtorch Britain. And I think to myself, we don't get that many wins, or at least it doesn't feel like we get that many wins. So when we do get one, even though often it's followed up by a kick in the knackers, let's celebrate it. So this is from Sky News in the UK this morning. Royal College of Psychiatrists pulls support for assisted dying bill. The announcement from the Royal College of Psychiatrists is a blow to supporters of the bill because under an amendment, a psychiatrist would be on the expert panel to assess assisted dying cases. The announcement is a blow to supporters of the bill ahead of its return to the House of Commons on Friday. It comes as plans to legalise assisted dying in Scotland passed the first phase this week. It was always going to in Scotland. Dr. Lane Smith, president of the RCP, said the RCP has reached the conclusion that we are not confident in the terminally ill adults bill in its current form, and we therefore cannot support the bill as it stands. That's the kicker, as it stands. But I'm going to take it as a win, like I say, because we don't feel like we get that many. People at home listening to me here that maybe haven't listened to us talking about the assisted dying bill before might think, well, that's a bit weird. Why do you not support people that are terminally ill and in agony, having the ability to pass away in dignity? That's not what I'm saying at all. Of course, there is a conversation to be had about that scenario. I can't imagine what it must be like to be in excruciating pain, being terminally ill, knowing that it's the end, and knowing that maybe, as you get closer to the final moments, your life is going to become even worse in terms of bodily functions, in terms of awareness of family. I get it. I get it. I'm not cold in the slightest. It's just I know where it leads. And the reason why I know where it leads is not because, I'm sat on a cloud saying and getting downloads from the ether. It's because it's what happened to these bills when they go through in other countries. We've got evidence of it. We've seen it in Canada. In Canada, they passed an assisted dying bill, they passed the assisted dying bill for terminally ill people, right? Which is exactly what they're selling to us here. It then became not terminally ill people, but people in discomfort. It then came people that aren't physically in discomfort, but are mentally in discomfort. So therefore, people with mental health problems, people that are depressed, people that are sad. Well, I'm not surprised in the world we live in that so many people have mental health issues. So rather than try and fix the problem that's leading to this huge pandemic of mental health issues, we just go, well, that's fine, don't worry about it, go in there, mate, and we'll put an injection in and we'll kill you. I interviewed a guy, I throw back to it all the time, a man who had a brain tumour, not a terminal brain tumour. This is a father of young children, not a terminal brain tumour, just a brain tumour, a benign one, and he was offered 3 times in Canada by the receptionist, so I don't know if she's getting some money from it, by the receptionist to take assisted dying. This is a man that's not terminally ill and has young children and doesn't want to die. And he spoke out about it. He came on to my show year before last to vocalize his disgust at this and how this is happening everywhere. It's the same in the Netherlands where they've passed these laws. People in the Netherlands, young people who again, aren't terminally ill. They don't have life-threatening diseases. They have mental health problems. They're depressed. They're sad. Have been euthanized by the state. So we know where it leads. That's why I've got a problem with the assisted dying bill. Not because people shouldn't have the right to die in dignity. Okay, so I'll just get that out there straight away. But I will take a win there, ladies and gentlemen. And if you obviously agree with our stance on the assisted dying bill, then hopefully you'll take a win as well. Okay, moving on. This is seriously not a win. Children are eating grass and animal fodder to survive. Charity boss warns of Gaza starvation crisis. Honestly, how much longer are people going to look the other way? Children in Gaza are barely staying alive and having to eat grass and animal fodder to survive, a global children's charity boss has warned. Rachel Cummings, humanitarian director of Save the Children, stressed that food, clean water and medicine had become almost impossible to find for families in the war-torn territory as the crisis in the area continues to deepen. Yeah, that's because Israel's not letting any in and hasn't done for months. Speaking to LBC's Andrew Marr, Ms. Cummings said children are starving in Gaza, there isn't any food, there isn't any clean water, children are getting sick, and we're deeply, deeply concerned about the impact this is going to have on children, a whole generation of children. Now, Israel has been blowing up children, men, women and children, innocent men, women and children in Gaza for a couple of years now. They've murdered tens and tens and tens of thousands of them with the support and the money and the weapons and the intelligence of Western governments, including, of course, America, who's wholly owned by Israel, and the United Kingdom, which again is wholly owned by Israel. But Palestinians are resilient, right? It's their land, actually. So they have a tie to that land, and they know that if they leave, they're not going to be given the right to return. They know how that works. They know about the Nakba, right? So they are stood there. They're taking these bombs are landing and they're murdering these people, but they're not going anywhere because they are attached to that land. Because it's theirs. They don't come from Poland or from Brooklyn. They actually come from the Middle East. It's their land. So what Israel's done now is gone, right, okay, well, we're going to have to switch tactics then. We've blown the living daylights out of them for month upon month upon month upon month. We're going to have to now starve them out. We're going to have to get them to such a point of desperation that they will then leave. If they won't die, then they will leave. And they'll go into Egypt, into the Sinai, over the Rafah crossing. Now, Israel wants the Gaza Strip. Again, it's not a tinfoil hat conspiracy theory. It's part of the Greater Israel Project. There's IDF soldiers going into Gaza to commit genocide with patches on their arm that show the map of Israel. And it's not the map of Israel now. It's the map of the Greater Israel, which is what they believe is the promised land. It's what God has given to them. They are the chosen ones. So they want to swallow up the Gaza Strip. They want to annex the West Bank and swallow that up as well, which they will under Donald Trump. Even with his fake little fallout with Netanyahu, he will sign off on that. Of course he will. Then once they've got all of that, they will go into Lebanon even harder than they have already. Syria, which we'll come to later, how that ties in. Iraq, Jordan, and any other nations, of course, that it believes are theirs as part of the Greater Israel Project. Now, the Greater Israel Project is from the Nile to the Euphrates. The Euphrates in Iraq, the Nile in Egypt. So you've got that whole area to the east of the River Nile in Egypt, the Sinai, that they believe is theirs as well, right? Well, how are they going to get that? And you might be thinking, well, they're trying to push the Palestinians into that land, so why would they bother doing that? If they want the Palestinians out of Gaza so they can have Gaza, but if they want the Sinai as well as part of the Greater Israel, why would they push them there? Because they're only going to have to deal with them again. Well, yeah, they are. But that then gives them the excuse, doesn't it? Because once they've moved those Palestinians out into the Sinai, they've taken over Gaza, they've built Trump Tower and his gold statue and all that nonsense. Well, then how do we get that? Well, it's a security threat, isn't it? There's a security threat then on the now Israel border, what was the Gaza border. Well, we're going to have to deal with that. So we'll build a militarized buffer zone. They love a buffer zone. So we build a buffer zone, couple of miles, 10 miles, 20 miles, 50 miles, whatever they decide it is. And then whilst that buffer zone is in position, they start to build settlements in that buffer zone. It's exactly what they did in the West Bank. Oh no, look, there's another housing development. How did that get there? I don't know. It's weird, isn't it? And then there'll be another few rockets fired over from Hamas that was supported into existence by Israel and bankrolled by Israel as recently as 2019. They'll throw some rockets over, which is always what happens. It's what happens every time. Every couple of years, they'll throw some rockets over. We'll have to send the boys in. So that's what will happen. They'll start getting rockets thrown in from Egypt. Oh, we've got to go in again. We've got to go. Oh, is that the River Nile? Oh, well, we're here now. Now, like I said at the start of this bit, they're doing this with the support of the Europeans. They're doing it with the support and the money of the Americans and the American taxpayers. And despite all this nonsense that we're hearing recently about the fact that Trump and Netanyahu have fallen out and Trump's done with being controlled by Israel and all this kind of stuff, really tell your bank account that, son. They've passed another anti-Semitism bill yesterday, which is very odd when you read it, because it basically says that they need leaders within education, within local districts, councils, whatever, to educate people, that Orwellian term, educate people on basically the great that Jewish Americans have done. Okay, well, most people, with the exception of a minority, most people have a problem with Israel. They have a problem with Jewish people. They have a problem with Israel. And a lot of Jewish people speak out against Israel. And when they do, trust me, they get more vitriol than non-Jewish people that speak out against Israel. So it's a case of, right, all right, well, we need to tell everyone how great Jewish people are. I mean, how weird is that as a legislation? Well, because some Jewish people are amazing. Some Jewish people are great. Some Jewish Americans are thought leaders, people that have created amazing things. Some seriously aren't, as you could apply to every single demographic. So what is it about a religious group that suddenly you have to promote this religious group to the population as being amazing, when some of them are amazing, some of them seriously aren't? But as I've said multiple times, part of this anti-Semitism legislation, because this one's slightly different, okay, it's trying to promote, but most anti-Semitism legislation is about silencing critique of Israel. I'd say about 99% of it is that. Now, they are pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing this. Sure, there's a lot of protests on campuses and stuff in the United States. People are starting to see what's going on in Gaza. Even pro-Israel voices are starting to go, okay, I supported Israel's right to defend itself, but we're starving kids now. Do you know what I mean? It's got to that point now where even the most ardent supporter is starting to have a little bit of a moral dilemma here, because this is, oh no, I didn't support this. I supported blowing up some terrorists. I didn't support blowing up a hospital full of dying children. This is too much. With that in mind, I also think, and I have vocalized this many times, that a lot of these laws that are being passed now are being passed in advance for what is coming. Because the more this humanitarian crisis unfolds, the more people are starting and will continue to, and it will evolve into more and more people going, okay, enough now. Like I say, I supported it before, I'm done now. So we need to silence those people in advance, because these people know what's coming. They know what's coming in terms of Iran and strikes there. They're already striking the hell out of Yemen. They know that what is coming is going to lead to a massive, massive expansion of people saying, I didn't support this, I'm not having it, Israel is a terrorist state, I don't support it anymore. So we need to get in advance with these laws to silence those people and punish those people as well. Now, this is an interesting one, the next story. You shouldn't laugh, but you kind of want to. Trump heaps praise on Syrian leader Ahmed Al-Sharaa as he lifts sanctions. Is this the same guy that was in sort of Head Choppers Anonymous? Yeah, or that guy. Donald Trump has met Syria's president Ahmed Al-Sharaa in Saudi Arabia, telling the former jihadist, I love that he could be a former jihadist. I've given it up. I've given up jihadist for Lent. Former jihadist, that he had an extraordinary opportunity. Trump also said Washington is exploring normalizing ties with Damascus a day after an announcement that US sanctions on Syria would be lifted. The EU still got a shed load on Russia and Iran and all these other places, but this guy's a good guy. The US president met Sharaa, a former militant who fought against US forces in Iraq and had a $10 million US bounty on his head 5 months ago in December 2024. Alongside the Saudi Crown Prince, Mr. Bonesaw, Sir Mohammed bin Salman, for a half an hour meeting before a conference of the Gulf Cooperative Council as part of his 4-day visit to the Middle East. It was the first meeting between a US and Syrian president for 25 years and a key milestone for Syria's reintegration into the international arena after the toppling of Assad in 2024. I can't wait for MAGA to excuse this one. I'm thinking, We've had 4D chess. I think we've even had 5D chess. We're talking 8D, 9D chess with this one, aren't we? 10 minutes ago, the guy's a terrorist, right, with a bounty on his head for killing American soldiers, for committing acts of terrorism, cutting heads off. We've seen all the videos. They were circulated everywhere. But he's a good guy now. They've smashed their way into Syria, of course, overtaking Assad. They killed Christians. All these videos of these lunatics attached to this guy going around executing people in the street, having them walking around like dogs on all fours, tied up, chains around their necks. They've been everywhere. Not so much on the mainstream media, which is weird because when Assad was apparently using chemical weapons, which we didn't have any evidence for, but when he was apparently killing his own people, it was all over the BBC. You couldn't get enough of it. But now, in Trump's words, this guy, bear in mind, Mr. Head Chopper Anonymous, is he's tough and attractive. He's not my type, but whatever you like, Trump. It's another example where we're given terrorists to fear, right? And we're given freedom fighters to support, depending on what nation it is and what the agenda is and what the end goal is at that particular time. And in some instances, those terrorists that we're meant to fear and those freedom fighters that we're meant to support can actually be the same guy, right? Which they are in this case. They just bait and switch depending on what the goal is, like I say. Here's another part of it and how it kind of ties in, I think, to the last story. If you look at the map of the Greater Israel, a large chunk of that is Syria. So they want that land. Part of it for all this biblical nonsense. The other part of it would be for natural resources, of course, and strategic importance given where it is. Obviously, the Middle East is the connection between three continents. It's a very important part of the world. So we're almost certainly going to see some kind of orchestrated way of taking over at first portions of land in Syria. They did it with the Golan Heights, and they're doing it now with a militarized buffer zone, which again, they'll become settlements eventually because that's what happens, and they will start to expand. Now, I'm on the fence with this one in terms of how that happens, whether this Al-Sharaa guy, who absolute mercenary, bought and paid for, just like all of them, whether he essentially supports the breakup of Syria, maybe between Israel in the south and maybe with Turkey in the north, whether it's something that he gets on board with diplomatically, or whether, because they can bait and switch back, whether he goes from terrorist, wanted $10 million bounty on his head, to freedom fighter, he's tough and attractive, to, he's a terrorist again. And suddenly at that point, well, Israel's got to send the boys in. So they will go in for their own security, just defending themselves, go into Syria, take over portions of land, which become militarized buffer zones, which become settlements, and then they wait a couple of years, maybe not even that, because it's moving faster and faster. Oh, no, there's been another attack. We have to go in further, in further, in further. Rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, until, is that the River Euphrates? Oh, we found it. Oh, we've accidentally managed to get from the Nile to the Euphrates. I mean, we're here now. Aren't we? We're here now. We may as well stay. Got comfortable. Okay, so the final story, more betrayal. I started with a positive story though, ladies and gentlemen, so keep harking back to that. There is some good things happening. Starmer will cave to EU fishing demands after Brexit reset. Oh, I like the word reset. They love it too. Of course, Starmer will cave like a wet cake, because that's what he is. He's a fraud. Significant concession to allow European boats access to British waters is branded a shameful surrender. Obviously. Sir Keir Starmer is preparing to cave in to the European Union on his knees, lick, 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 and agree a deal which guarantees European fishing boats access to British waters for 4 years. So yeah, they can plunder the hell out of it and destroy, if not already destroyed, fishing communities, particularly on the northeast coast of England. Brexit wasn't meant to happen, ladies and gentlemen. We voted the wrong way. And what happens when you vote the wrong way, particularly when it comes to the EU, and we've got so much evidence for this, is they will normally just rerun it. It's what they did in Denmark. It's what they did in Portugal. It's what they did in Ireland with the Lisbon Treaty in particular. The people voted... What do you mean they voted no? Just do it again. Just do it again. Oh, they voted yes this time. Okay, do you want to do it again, third time? Best of three? No. No. we go off the one where they agreed with what we wanted them to say. We go with that one, and then we don't have a rerun after that. Obviously. Now, to attach to this, because it's a one-party state, and I keep making this point over and over again, it's Starmer that's caving to the EU, and then you've got a top Tory MP who's been caught this week admitting that Brexit. So that the headline is top Tory court admitting Brexit drawback in leaked clip. Chris Phillips was an MP, basically saying we didn't have a plan of how we were going to return asylum seekers once we got Brexit. Yeah, because you weren't expecting it, mate. You weren't expecting it to happen. All parties, with the exception of Farage and the UKIP club, wanted to stay within the EU. People talk about foreign politicians meddling, or Russians meddling. You had Obama flying over to England, telling us that, or to Britain, telling us that we needed to vote to stay in the EU, otherwise we go to the back of the queue with any trade deal with the United States. So essentially, we will punish you if you don't vote the way that we want you to vote. You had Nick Clegg, that complete ignoramus, basically saying that the EU army, which is now happening, by the way, the EU army was a conspiracy theory, and that actually, as said as well by David Cameron, that actually if we left the EU, it would lead to World War III. But yeah, they weren't, gaslighting or trying to intimidate the population in any way whatsoever. In terms of rerunning an election, I don't think that would fly in the UK. Certainly not as quickly as they tried to make it happen, where you basically had all the know-it-alls and the academics all coming out, and all the lefty lovies coming out telling us that we were all far-right racist bigots for wanting to leave a trade bloc. They wanted to get an EU referendum rerun straight away. It wasn't flying. There's so many people. And actually, the EU's got worse since then. Imagine that, if that was at all possible. So actually, trying to get that rerun, I don't think it was going to fly here in the way that it worked in Denmark and the way that it worked in Ireland. So what they do, which is very clever, is they say, okay, yeah, no, we'll leave the EU then. You voted. It's democratic. We are a democracy in the United Kingdom. We will leave the EU, but we won't really. Just don't tell them we haven't really. So actually, you make the big announcement that you've left the EU, but actually, in reality, in terms of these fishing quotas and everything else, which is a large reason why people voted, particularly in that part of the United Kingdom, you just don't do it. You say you've done it, so it says you've left on the tin. You put someone else's name above the door and say that they're now the new landlord, but you're actually still running the gaff. That's how they do it. And what is great about that is when everything goes wrong, as it is currently, in basically every facet of everyone's existence in this country, you can blame it on Brexit. So you voted for Brexit, we didn't really do it, but everything's Brexit's fault. So then the worse it gets, keep blaming Brexit. It's because we left the EU, And at that point, they will revisit. Once they feel like they've got the population to such a point where actually you're either apathetic because, well, what was the point? You either know that they didn't really leave, in which case you're kind of apathetic to a referendum vote. Because, well, what's the point? Yeah, go on then, rerun it then. We never left anyway. What's the point? And then you've got others that they will try and gaslight into, well, actually, yeah, I voted for Brexit, but it has got worse since. Yeah, but they didn't actually do it. Yeah, go on then. We'll have another referendum. I've changed my mind. We're not at that point yet, ladies and gentlemen, far from it, because as I say, the EU is getting worse and worse and worse. But that, I believe, is where they want us to get. And once they feel like they've got us to that point, they will offer another referendum. And also, do you honestly think that they'd actually let us have a fair vote this time? Because they didn't expect us to vote to leave last time. There was shock, tears, I need a safe space, and all that stuff when it happened. So they definitely didn't expect it to happen. So if they do have another one at some point, whether it be 5 years, 10 years down the line, I'm not sure they'll leave it up to chance. We might get some of those automatic voting machines, maybe, as opposed to paper ballots. We'll see. But thank you so much for tuning in. Focus on the Royal College of Psychiatrists pulling support for the assisted dying bill. That's the one positive story for today. The others are a bit neg-nelly, but we need to talk about them. We need to highlight them because it's important. It's reality. It's what's going on in this world. And I want to know, and please do in the comments, try and keep it polite if you can, because I know when Trump supporters come at me, it doesn't tend to be so polite. please explain to me how you can square the circle of him heaping praise on this Al-Qaeda guy. Because I'd love to know. I know you will be able to do it because that's what hopium does. It's a drug and it's very addictive. And so you can sort of, pull out this trust the plan, 5D chess. You don't understand what's going on. Stick in your own lane in the United Kingdom. You're all a bunch of cucks. Focus on your own country. All that kind of stuff. I'll expect some of that. But I would like some genuine answers. How can you align with this? How does this work? As always, Trending was brought to you with Iconic Coffee. I need to go and find who's nicked my mug, actually. Head over to shop.iconic.com. Use the code TRENDING. You get 10% off. Any money that comes in from that comes obviously back into Iconic, and we use that to try and expand and try and get out to more people. From next week, we're actually going to do an afternoon Trending as well. So on Monday, I believe it's myself and my brother in here in the morning looking through the stories that will have happened over the weekend and have happened on the Monday morning. And then we're actually going to throw in an extra Trending on a Monday afternoon and on a Wednesday afternoon, on a Friday afternoon, because obviously a lot of things happen during the day. Clues in the name, Trending. We want to try and keep things as fresh and as in the moment as we possibly can. Until tomorrow, I think my brother's back tomorrow. I'll see you next week. Take care of yourselves. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the sun. Just be aware of the blowtorches and stuff.